Have you ever wondered why some men barely say a few words, yet women can't stop thinking about them? It's not about looks, money, or charm. It's about the way they communicate. The tone, the timing, and the energy behind their words can trigger something powerful in a woman's mind. Today, we're breaking down exactly how men talk that makes women feel emotionally addicted and why most people completely misunderstand this dynamic. When it comes to attraction, women don't fall for what a man says, they fall for how he makes them feel through what he says. Emotional communication triggers are subtle psychological signals that bypass logical thinking and connect directly to a woman's emotions. They make her feel seen, understood, and valued on a deeper level. Most men think attraction is built through physical presence or grand gestures, but emotional communication is far more powerful. It's the invisible language that creates obsession, not because of the words themselves, but because of the emotions those words awaken. When a man communicates with emotional depth, he doesn't rely on scripted compliments or shallow flattery. Instead, he speaks from authenticity. His words are grounded in presence, not performance. A woman senses this immediately. She can feel when a man's energy is stable, when he's not trying to impress but simply express. This kind of communication makes her feel emotionally safe yet excited. She starts associating his voice and presence with comfort and warmth. That's where obsession begins. Not through games or manipulation, but through genuine emotional resonance. The tone of voice plays a massive role in triggering these emotions. A calm, confident tone that carries patience and certainty naturally draws a woman in. It signals emotional maturity, control, and masculine groundedness. Women are subconsciously wired to seek emotional safety, and the tone in which a man speaks communicates whether he's capable of providing it. A soft-spoken but firm tone says, "You can relax around me, you don't have to perform." That's an instant emotional trigger because it contrasts the fast-paced, emotionally disconnected world she's used to. Another major emotional trigger is curiosity. When a man shows genuine curiosity about who she is beyond her looks or surface-level traits, it activates her need to be understood. Most people listen to reply, but when a man listens to understand, his questions carry emotional weight. He notices details. He remembers what she said 2 days ago. He doesn't interrupt her story. He builds on it. That kind of emotional attentiveness creates depth, and women crave that. She begins to feel that he gets her in a way others don't, and this is one of the most powerful psychological anchors that builds emotional obsession. A man who communicates with emotional intelligence also knows when to create space. Silence, when used intentionally, is not awkward, it's magnetic. It gives a woman the chance to feel her own emotions during the conversation, which deepens her internal connection to him. That pause, that small moment of quiet, allows her to process the energy of the exchange. It's not about filling every moment with words, but about allowing emotional tension to breathe. This kind of awareness in communication is rare, and that rarity triggers fascination. Emotional communication triggers also stem from vulnerability, not the kind that overshares or seeks sympathy, but the kind that shows realness. When a man shares his thoughts or beliefs with emotional honesty, it builds trust. It signals strength because it shows he's not hiding behind a facade. Women are deeply attracted to men who are emotionally available but still maintain composure. They don't want someone overly emotional. They want someone emotionally aware. This awareness makes her feel safe to express herself too, which forms a powerful emotional bond. Lastly, emotional communication isn't about always being nice or agreeable. In fact, one of the strongest emotional triggers is when a man respectfully challenges a woman's thoughts or beliefs. It shows confidence and individuality. When he disagrees with calm conviction, it awakens her respect and curiosity. It communicates that he's not seeking her approval, he's simply being himself. That balance between warmth and strength is intoxicating because it satisfies both emotional and primal attraction. Women become drawn to that energy because it speaks to their emotions, their logic, and their desire for depth all at once. Masculine confidence in speech isn't about speaking loudly or dominating a conversation. It's about communicating from a place of calm certainty. Women can instantly sense when a man's words come from insecurity versus grounded confidence. A confident man doesn't rush his speech, doesn't seek validation, and doesn't try to fill every silence with words. He understands that power lies not in the volume of his voice, but in the steadiness of his energy. When he speaks, there's an underlying sense of self-assurance that says, "I know who I am, and I'm comfortable with it." That energy is magnetic because it conveys emotional stability, leadership, and control, all qualities that trigger attraction at a subconscious level. A man who embodies this kind of confidence doesn't try to impress through his words. Instead, he lets his presence carry the message. The pacing of his speech reflects his internal composure. He doesn't hurry through sentences or sound as if he's trying to prove something. He pauses when needed, maintains eye contact, and gives weight to his words. That rhythm, that ease in communication, tells a woman that he's not nervous or uncertain. He's centered. This centeredness becomes a silent signal of masculine energy, which women instinctively respond to. It makes her feel that she's in the presence of someone who can handle life's pressure without losing control. Confidence in speech also comes from emotional detachment from outcomes. A man who speaks with calm conviction isn't worried about whether the woman will like him, laugh at his jokes, or approve of what he says. He's not performing, he's expressing. This difference in intention is what creates the magnetic pull. When a man's self-worth doesn't depend on the reaction he receives, his communication naturally carries more power. He becomes unpredictable in a grounded way, and unpredictability mixed with stability creates fascination. She starts wondering what makes him so composed, what gives him that quiet authority, and that curiosity becomes attraction. Another aspect of masculine confidence in speech is clarity. Confident men speak directly. They don't hide behind vague language or hesitation. When they say something, it's deliberate and thoughtful. This doesn't mean being harsh or blunt. It means being real. Women appreciate direct communication because it signals honesty and strength. When a man says what he means and means what he says, it builds trust. She doesn't have to decode his words or guess his intentions. That transparency, paired with calm delivery, creates a sense of emotional safety, a key element in long-term attraction. Tone also plays a defining role. A confident tone is steady, low, and intentional. It doesn't fluctuate wildly or sound forced. It carries weight because it's backed by emotional control. Women respond more to how something is said than what is said, and the tone becomes a direct reflection of inner security. A man who speaks slowly and with purpose gives the impression of control. Not control over her, but control over himself. That control is deeply attractive because it communicates maturity and discipline. It shows that he doesn't react impulsively, he responds thoughtfully. Masculine confidence also involves restraint, knowing when not to speak. Men who are overly talkative often come across as insecure, as though they're trying to fill silence to avoid discomfort. But confident men use silence strategically. They understand that silence can speak louder than words when used at the right time. That pause, that stillness, creates anticipation. It gives his words more impact and gives her time to feel his energy. This kind of communication rhythm, balanced between expression and silence, builds emotional tension, which is one of the strongest psychological triggers of attraction. Confidence in speech also manifests through body language. The way a man stands, the steadiness of his gaze, and even the way he breathes while speaking all reinforce his verbal message. When his body is relaxed, shoulders slightly back, and gestures controlled, his words gain credibility. Women notice these subtle cues instantly. They read his physical confidence as emotional reliability. It's not about dominance, it's about presence, being fully grounded in the moment. That presence makes a woman feel that she's being fully heard, seen, and engaged, which amplifies emotional connection. Ultimately, masculine confidence in speech is about owning one's energy without seeking approval. It's a blend of calm, clarity, and control that radiates through tone, pace, and presence. It communicates strength without arrogance and authority without aggression. It's the silent message behind every confident word. I don't need to prove who I am, I already know. And that kind of communication doesn't just attract, it captivates. In the world of attraction, the difference between authenticity and manipulation defines whether a connection becomes powerful or short-lived. Many people try to influence others by using rehearsed lines, exaggerated charm, or psychological tactics they've read somewhere. On the surface, manipulation might create momentary interest, but it never sustains emotional depth. Authenticity, on the other hand, naturally builds trust, respect, and emotional investment because it's rooted in truth. Women can sense authenticity almost instantly. It's in the tone, the energy, and the consistency between a man's words and his actions. When what he says aligns with who he truly is, it creates a strong emotional resonance that manipulation simply can't replicate. Manipulation always comes from a place of insecurity. It's an attempt to control outcomes, to force attraction, or to make someone feel a certain way. The manipulative communicator hides behind tactics, pretending to be confident, pretending to listen, pretending to care. But women pick up on those small emotional inconsistencies. They may not always identify them consciously, but they feel when something is off. Authentic men don't need to fake confidence or copy a communication style that isn't natural to them. They speak from their reality. They don't overcompensate, they don't flatter excessively, and they don't use emotional pressure to get attention. This relaxed approach signals strength and self-respect, which in turn inspires trust and curiosity. Authenticity in speech means being grounded in one's truth without trying to manipulate emotions. When a man speaks honestly about what he feels, thinks, and believes, it gives a woman emotional clarity. She doesn't feel played with or tested, she feels understood. That emotional transparency becomes a safe space where real connection can grow. Manipulative communication, in contrast, keeps people emotionally on edge, constantly guessing what the other person truly means. Authenticity removes that guessing game. It creates stability, and stability is deeply attractive because it allows emotional openness without fear of betrayal. The energy behind authentic communication also matters more than the exact words. When a man speaks from authenticity, his tone feels natural, his body language is relaxed, and his eye contact is genuine. He's not rehearsing his lines, he's simply expressing himself. Women find that emotionally soothing because it feels real. Manipulation, even when it sounds smooth or confident, carries a tension that exposes itself over time. The manipulator's words might sound impressive, but his energy feels inconsistent. He might say the right things but lack emotional congruence, that inner alignment between how he feels and how he speaks. Authenticity is effortless because it requires no act. It's the truth expressed simply and calmly. Another key difference is intent. Authentic communication is motivated by expression, while manipulation is motivated by control. The authentic man shares thoughts to connect, to exchange energy, and to understand. The manipulative man speaks to extract validation or compliance. This subtle difference creates two completely opposite emotional experiences for a woman. With authenticity, she feels seen and valued as a person. With manipulation, she feels used or evaluated. Authentic men understand that attraction isn't something to create. It's something to reveal through truth. That truth might not please everyone, but it always earns respect from the right people. Emotional honesty is a cornerstone of authenticity. A man who's comfortable saying what he genuinely thinks, even when it's unpopular, communicates self-assurance. He doesn't try to mirror her every opinion or pretend to agree just to maintain harmony. Women subconsciously respect men who can disagree calmly and stand by their beliefs without becoming defensive. It shows depth and identity. Manipulation, on the other hand, involves mirroring too much, saying what she wants to hear, avoiding conflict to appear likable. That might attract short-term interest, but it kills long-term respect. Real attraction grows when a woman sees that a man has emotional boundaries and a stable sense of self. Authenticity also involves emotional consistency. A man who communicates authentically doesn't shift his tone or personality depending on who he's talking to. Whether he's speaking to a friend, a colleague, or someone he's attracted to, his energy remains steady. That consistency builds credibility because it shows he's not performing for approval. Women are drawn to men who stay the same in different environments because it reflects reliability and strength. Manipulators often fail here because they constantly adapt to be liked, which eventually exposes their lack of real identity. Ultimately, authenticity allows communication to feel real, balanced, and emotionally fulfilling. It's the difference between trying to win someone and trying to connect with them. When a man speaks with honesty and self-assurance, he creates emotional gravity, the kind of pull that keeps a woman's attention not because he's playing a role, but because he's unapologetically himself. Listening energy is one of the most underrated yet powerful forms of communication. It's not just about hearing words, it's about the emotional presence behind the listening. When a man truly listens to a woman, he communicates something far deeper than agreement or understanding. He communicates value. Women are naturally intuitive, and they can sense when a man's attention is scattered or when he's only pretending to listen. But when a man's focus is fully present, When he's not just waiting for his turn to speak, it creates an emotional shift. She feels seen, not just heard. That's the foundation of emotional connection. And it's one of the reasons women become deeply drawn to men who master the art of listening with energy and intention. Listening energy begins with silence, or not an empty silence, but an attentive one. It's the kind of quiet that tells her she has your full attention. It's when your eyes, body language, and energy are aligned with her words. When a man listens like that, it allows a woman to relax into her feminine expression. She doesn't have to compete for attention or over-explain herself. She feels emotionally safe. That safety leads her to open up more deeply, share more honestly, and express herself more freely. And when she does, she starts to associate that emotional freedom with the man who gave her that space. That's how attachment begins to form, through consistent emotional presence, not through grand gestures. Women are emotionally responsive beings. The way a man listens to them directly influences how they feel around him. When he listens with patience, curiosity, and calm, it signals emotional intelligence. It tells her that he's not threatened by emotions, that he can hold space for her without judgment or discomfort. This creates an environment of trust where her emotional energy feels accepted. On the other hand, when a man interrupts, dismisses, or tries to fix her feelings too quickly, it breaks that connection. True listening isn't about offering solutions. It's about allowing emotions to be expressed without resistance. That kind of listening is magnetic because it communicates maturity and emotional safety. Listening energy also carries a non-verbal element that speaks louder than words. A subtle nod, steady eye contact, or a small shift in body posture can convey more understanding than a long response ever could. When a man listens with his entire body, relaxed shoulders, open stance, focused eyes, it transmits calm confidence. This kind of presence doesn't just make a woman feel heard, it makes her feel understood on an emotional level. It's as if he's tuned in to the frequency of her emotions, not just her sentences. That emotional tuning builds a powerful connection because it touches her internal world, something few people ever access. Another part of listening energy is emotional mirroring. This doesn't mean copying her feelings, but reflecting empathy through tone and expression. When a man responds with genuine emotional awareness, matching her emotional rhythm without losing his own balance, it creates harmony. She feels emotionally synchronized with him. That synchronization is deeply bonding because it feels natural and effortless. It communicates that he's emotionally attuned, that he doesn't just hear emotions, he feels them in a steady, grounded way. Listening energy also involves patience. Women process emotions verbally, and sometimes they need time to reach clarity through expression. A man who understands this doesn't rush her or interrupt to get to the point. He allows her the emotional space to express fully, even when the conversation takes turns. That patience shows control and understanding, both of which are attractive qualities. When he doesn't demand instant resolution, it tells her that he values the connection more than convenience. This patience reinforces her sense of emotional safety, and she starts to trust him more deeply. There's also a spiritual depth to true listening. When a man listens with full attention, he's not just engaging in communication, he's connecting to another human experience. It's an exchange of energy, a moment of presence that transcends words. In that moment, he's saying, without speaking, your emotions matter, your thoughts have value. That validation touches something primal in a woman's heart because it makes her feel emotionally acknowledged. Most people listen to reply, but very few listen to feel. The ones who do leave a lasting impact because they reach beyond the surface and touch the emotional essence of connection. Listening energy doesn't require extraordinary effort. It requires intention. It's about being present enough to make someone feel emotionally significant in your presence. It's the difference between passive attention and active empathy. When a man listens with that level of awareness, he becomes unforgettable. Women remember not just what he said, but how they felt when he listened. That feeling becomes the emotional imprint that keeps them drawn to him long after the conversation ends. Boundaries and self-control form the invisible foundation of emotional strength that women instinctively respect and are drawn to. When a man knows his limits, respects his time, and doesn't compromise his values for temporary validation, it sends a strong message that he is emotionally disciplined and grounded in who he is. This kind of composure creates an aura of stability and power. It communicates that his attention must be earned, not demanded. In a world where many people act out of impulse or insecurity, a man who operates from restraint instead of reaction stands out. His boundaries don't make him distant. They make him desirable because they demonstrate self-respect. Women are naturally attuned to emotional energy, and they can sense when a man's self-control is rooted in confidence versus fear. A confident man doesn't restrict himself to appear mysterious. His calm detachment is genuine. He doesn't chase after attention or feel the need to prove his worth. His boundaries are not walls. They are filters that protect his energy. This controlled presence gives women the sense that he's emotionally safe to be around, that he won't lose himself in emotion or need constant reassurance. Boundaries create polarity, the healthy tension between availability and independence that keeps attraction alive. Self-control in communication is one of the clearest reflections of masculine strength. When a man can handle emotional intensity without reacting impulsively, it immediately changes the dynamic. If a woman tests his patience, challenges his views, or becomes emotionally expressive, his ability to stay calm becomes magnetic. Women feel safe with men who don't crumble under emotional pressure. It shows emotional maturity, a rare quality that makes her trust him more deeply. While others might get defensive or frustrated, the man with self-control listens, assesses, and responds from a place of grounded awareness. His restraint doesn't suppress emotion, it channels it wisely. Boundaries also determine how a man allows himself to be treated. When he refuses to tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional games, it shows that he values himself. That quiet strength sets the tone for how others engage with him. Women might not always articulate it, but they feel drawn to men who enforce boundaries without aggression. When a man calmly walks away from what doesn't align with his standards, it creates intrigue. It communicates that he's not desperate for attention and he values peace over drama. That choice alone distinguishes him from men who compromise their integrity for fleeting approval. Another layer of self-control is emotional restraint, the ability to manage impulses and desires without suppressing authenticity. A man who doesn't react instantly to attraction or validation has a mysterious depth. His ability to control emotional and physical impulses signals mastery over himself. This doesn't mean he's cold or detached, it means he's deliberate. When a woman realizes that she can't easily sway his emotions, she subconsciously elevates his value. She starts to see him as a man of discipline, someone who acts by choice, not compulsion. That self-command is a deeply masculine trait that inspires respect and admiration. Boundaries also extend to communication of needs. A man with self-control doesn't avoid expressing what he wants. He does it assertively and calmly. He doesn't demand, he declares. This subtle distinction changes everything. When he speaks his truth without emotional chaos, it builds trust. A woman feels that he's transparent, not manipulative. He's not trying to control her response. He's simply stating his standards. That clarity creates emotional order, and emotional order creates attraction. Women feel safe and drawn to men who know what they want and aren't afraid to articulate it with maturity. Another form of self-control is the ability to remain emotionally balanced during conflict. When tensions rise, most people either explode or withdraw. But a man who stays composed, who takes a breath before responding, demonstrates leadership. He shows that he's capable of navigating emotional storms without losing direction. Women find that energy stabilizing because it contrasts the chaos of reactive communication. It's not his dominance that attracts her, it's his emotional composure. That calmness makes her feel that no matter what happens, he will not be shaken easily. Boundaries and self-control also reflect how a man manages his focus and time. When he doesn't allow distractions, unhealthy relationships, or negativity to drain his energy, he becomes more selective with where he invests it. That selectiveness makes his presence more valuable. When a woman realizes she's in the presence of someone who doesn't give attention easily, it intensifies her desire to earn it. His restraint becomes his silent allure because it shows that he values quality over quantity in every part of his life, including relationships. Boundaries aren't about control, they're about direction. They define how a man moves through life and what kind of energy he allows near him. Self-control gives those boundaries strength and consistency. Together, they form the kind of masculine framework that women find deeply attractive, the calm confidence of a man who knows himself, respects himself, and never loses his center no matter who stands before him. Subtle dominance and leadership are not about control, aggression, or intimidation. They're about influence through presence, confidence, and emotional direction. A man who embodies this kind of dominance doesn't need to prove his strength verbally or physically. It radiates from the way he carries himself, how he speaks, and the energy he brings into a room. His dominance is not loud, it's quiet, grounded, and deliberate. It's in his ability to guide without force, to lead without ego, and to create emotional safety while maintaining authority. Women are instinctively drawn to this balance because it reflects both protection and stability, qualities deeply rooted in attraction psychology. True dominance starts with self-command. Before a man can lead others, he must lead himself. This means controlling his emotions, mastering his impulses, and maintaining clarity under pressure. Women can sense when a man is internally organized, when he operates with purpose and direction rather than chaos or indecision. That kind of composure sends a silent message of security. Subtle dominance isn't about overpowering a woman, it's about giving her something to lean into, a steady energy that allows her to relax into her femininity. The man's grounded nature becomes the anchor in moments of uncertainty, and that emotional steadiness creates trust and attraction simultaneously. Leadership in this context is not positional. It's emotional. It's about being decisive, assertive, and clear in one's intentions. A man who takes initiative, whether in conversation, decision-making, or direction, projects confidence and competence. He doesn't hesitate to express what he wants, but he does so respectfully. His assertiveness doesn't come from dominance over others. It comes from confidence within himself. When he leads with calm clarity, it creates an emotional structure that feels safe. Women find this deeply appealing because it represents strength without arrogance, power that's expressed with empathy and understanding. Subtle dominance also shows through communication. It's in the tone of voice, firm but warm, steady but engaging. The way he speaks reflects self-assurance. He doesn't raise his voice to be heard. He controls the rhythm of conversation with calm conviction. This vocal composure becomes hypnotic because it mirrors emotional mastery. A man who communicates with subtle dominance doesn't argue to win. He speaks to create understanding. His leadership shows in how he directs the emotional flow of a conversation, how he diffuses tension, and how he maintains harmony without surrendering his stance. That emotional intelligence is what separates dominance from arrogance. In relationships, subtle dominance means being decisive yet adaptable. A man with leadership energy doesn't avoid responsibility, he welcomes it. He plans, initiates, and provides direction, but he also knows when to listen, when to compromise, and when to let things unfold naturally. His leadership isn't rigid, it's flexible and attuned. This ability to balance strength with sensitivity makes him incredibly magnetic. A woman feels emotionally secure around him because she senses his strength but never feels controlled by it. That emotional balance, strong yet safe, firm yet gentle, is the essence of masculine leadership that draws women in effortlessly. Body language also plays a key role in conveying subtle dominance. The way a man moves, the steadiness of his gaze, and the control in his gestures all communicate confidence. He doesn't fidget, rush, or overreact. His movements are intentional, signaling that he's fully present. That physical stillness exudes calm power. When he walks into a room, people notice his energy before he even speaks. This isn't because he's trying to command attention, but because his grounded presence naturally does. His dominance is silent, not through intimidation, but through the unspoken confidence that he's in control of himself and his environment. Subtle dominance also comes from decisiveness, the ability to make choices without hesitation. Women feel safe when a man can make clear decisions because it reflects direction and purpose. Indecision creates emotional uncertainty, while decisiveness creates emotional stability. A man who knows what he wants and expresses it confidently allows a woman to trust his leadership. This doesn't mean he disregards her perspective. It means he values it while maintaining his own clarity. That kind of mutual respect creates a natural dynamic where she feels led, not controlled. Leadership also requires emotional steadiness in chaos. When things go wrong, when emotions rise, or when plans fail, the man who stays composed becomes the pillar others look to. That resilience is what defines true dominance, the ability to hold emotional ground when others lose theirs. Women instinctively test this in subtle ways, not out of malice, but to feel the man's emotional strength. When he responds with calm rather than frustration, it reassures her of his capability. His stability becomes her security. Subtle dominance and leadership are never about superiority. They're about direction, composure, and emotional influence. They show through quiet confidence, grounded energy, and the ability to lead with empathy. A man who embodies these traits doesn't demand respect. He earns it effortlessly. His presence alone communicates authority, and his energy creates an environment where others, especially women, feel both protected and inspired to follow his lead.